Hey guys, so I have a couple different vlog topics that I've been wanting to do for all of you, but I've just had a hard time finding the time to actually sit down and get them recorded. So luckily I had some extra time today to record this vlog where I am going to talk about my decision to stop homeschooling my kids. I feel like that's one of the biggest questions I get now that my kids are in school is, why did you decide to stop homeschooling? So I figured what better way than to explain on the vlog why I decided to stop homeschooling. I want to preface this by saying that I have nothing against homeschool. I think that every family, every parent has to choose what works best for them and their kids, and that might be different in one season than another season. So what works one year for you and your kids might not work the next year. I have met some of the most amazing parents through homeschool, and not just amazing parents, but they're amazing teachers also. And if anything, gosh, like, they are amazing because I have seen firsthand the dedication and the time and the patience and just everything that goes into homeschooling your kids. And wow, like if you are homeschooling your kids, you are a rock star. But if you aren't homeschooling your kids, you're also a rock star. And I say that as something that I'm also telling myself and trying to ingrain in my head, because I have really struggled with the guilt of sending my kids to school. So I'll share real quickly these reasons as to why I decided to stop homeschooling, and then I thought it'd be cool to bring on Colton and Emmy and have them kind of share their perspective and tell you, you know, what they think of the change this year. So let's get started. So here is kind of an overview of why I decided to stop homeschooling. So a lot of things have changed in my life. If you've been watching our vlog over the past, I guess now like 18 months or so, a lot of things have changed in my life, and one of those things being that I'm a single mom now. So when everything first happened with Dwayne leaving and me, everything kind of being up in the air and so much uncertainty and not really knowing, I guess that kind of got the wheels turning in my head of, as a single mom, what would things look like if I were to homeschool or to send my kids to public school. So that goes along with everything I said about it really depends on the season of life that you're in. It's not just like a once and done decision on the education of your kids. So I definitely think that it can change over the course of their education. And as I found myself in a very different and unexpected season of my life being a single mom, I realized that although, you know, I'm so grateful for my parents and how they're supporting and helping me and the kids, I want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet also. So that's still kind of in the process, in the works. I'm not sure, you know, if I'm going to go back to school, if I'm going to try to get a job with the degree that I have, or if I'm just going to try to grow you know, my Keep business. And I started back up with my photography and then also my IBCLC private practice. So that's still kind of undecided as to, I guess, what way that area of my life is going to go. But I knew that I needed more time, either to devote to schooling, to devote to a job, to devote to the little businesses that I do have. And homeschooling is time consuming. I mean, it's not just the time you spend teaching your kids, but also the time you spend preparing the materials. So I knew that if I needed extra time, one thing that was going to have to change was sending my kids to school. So that was probably the first kind of realization that I needed to maybe consider something else besides homeschooling for my family. Along with that, the past year, all the other stresses that I had in my life, homeschooling was also very, very stressful. I'm a perfectionist and I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to have my day planned. I wanted to have the lesson plan set out. I think I had, ultimately looking back, I had too high of an expectation for myself. And ultimately it just wasn't bringing me joy. And so I came to a point where I needed to decide what things in my life were bringing me joy and what things in my life weren't. And I made some huge changes, not just with homeschooling, but in other areas of my life. And I realized that it was causing me more stress than it should, and that stress was pouring over into other areas of my life. So that was kind of another little red flag that popped up in my head that made me question whether homeschooling right now was a good choice. I came to the realization that homeschool was really hurting my relationship with Colton, and it was putting strain on it. We were yelling at each other, we were fighting about doing school, and it just made us both not enjoy homeschooling. And I wanted education and learning to be something that my kids love and enjoy and strive for. Along with that, he was also really struggling with reading, and I tried a lot of different methods, and it just wasn't clicking. So I felt like it was kind of above my expertise and my ability to help him. So I wanted to have more resources available to him so that he didn't just keep falling further and further behind. So obviously this was a decision that came with a lot of thought, a lot of lists of the pros and cons, and a lot of prayer. We did in the spring go and visit the school that we chose for the kids to go to. It is a private Christian school. That was really important for me. One, I wanted them to be around that Christian atmosphere. Two, I wanted them to have smaller classes. And three, I just wanted them to have teachers and administrators and staff. I'm not saying you can't find this at a public school, but I just wanted them to be really invested and understanding with the transition process, and patient as they may be a little behind, and not just kind of, you know, push them to the side, but do what they need to do to help them get caught up and succeed. After I did the tour, I was just very reassured that it would be a good fit for Colton and Emmy. So obviously after I made the decision to send them to school, it was, I don't even know how I describe it. Emotional for me, emotional for them. I knew that the fall was going to be a time of big transition, and you know, I was preparing myself for that all the while I was also dealing with a lot of guilt. On one hand, I felt like I was kind of failing my kids and failing myself because I wasn't able to homeschool. Like, I was failing at this, and that was really, really hard to come to terms with. And then to add into all of that, when they had testing, I knew that Colton was behind in his reading. And so I guess I did kind of expect this, but they did recommend that instead, age-wise, he should be going into 3rd grade, but instead he's doing 2nd grade. And again, I really harbored a lot of guilt because I felt like my decision to homeschool my kids had caused them to be behind. So and when we first had the testing done, they said that Emmy would be fine to go into 1st grade, but after about, I don't know, 2 weeks or so in 1st grade, she was really starting to shut down. She didn't want to go to school. She was crying. She was distracted in class. She was really, really struggling. I mean, she broke my heart. She would come home and tell me how, you know, how hard 1st grade was, and how, you know, she'd say, "Mommy, I just don't understand why it's so hard for me." And so I met with her teacher and the principal, and they were super fabulous, and they were willing to, you know, accommodate and do whatever was needed to try to help catch Emmy up. But my greatest fear was that we would kind of get halfway through the year after she had developed relationships with her 1st grade class, and then realize that she wasn't caught up enough to move with them to 2nd grade. So again, another hard decision. I made the decision to pull her from that class and send her to kindergarten. And honestly, again, I have struggled with more guilt over that decision and feeling solely responsible for the fact that my kids aren't in the grade they should be age-wise. So it took me a little while to move past the guilt of feeling like I had failed at homeschooling my kids, and then also just feeling that I had failed them in general for not being able to provide them a good enough education to keep up with their peers. And thankfully, you know, God is good. I spent a lot of praying about that. Even though, you know, some days that guilt creeps back in, I definitely feel confident about my decision. And somebody had to join me. Yeah, he was getting fussy, so. But I'm gonna go ahead and bring Colton and Emmy on and ask them a couple questions about their thoughts on moving from homeschooling to private school. So Colton volunteered to go first, so I'm gonna ask you a couple questions first. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So when when I first told you that we were going to stop homeschooling, what did you think, or how did you feel?
Definitely sad, not really wanting to do it.
So you were not looking forward to it?
No.
No. Okay, so you've been at school, what, like a month now, I think, and how do you feel now? Like, what do you think? Do you like school? It's okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah? What is your least favorite thing about going to school?
That I have to be quiet.
What is your favorite thing about going to school?
Learning math equations.
Learning math. You love math, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So whenever I told you that we were going to stop homeschooling and go to school, what did you think? Were you excited or scared or what? Like, what did you think?
No.
You don't know? Okay. So now that you've been in school, what I saw, a month, what do you think about it? Do you like? It's good? You give it a thumbs up? In the middle? It's kind of in the middle?
Yeah, because plus
He likes that you go to school?
Yeah, I think so. I think you said boo. Because he was doing...
So that's a little bit of the kids' perspective and how they feel about the change in school. So they have only been in school a month, but so far I've been super impressed by Shalom, and I've been super impressed by my kiddos, and I'm proud of them about how good they're doing and how they're thriving and making friends and just being successful. But I'll be sure to update you after it's been a little bit longer than a month, but so far so good. So I hope you enjoyed this video and it helped you learn a little bit about why we decided for right now to stop homeschooling and send the kids to private school. So that's all for this vlog. Down on the farm, over and out.